All right. Welcome everybody to another Course in Miracles call. For anyone that is new, this is A Course in Miracles. It is written, scribed actually. So scribed meaning that it was channeled by Helen Schuckman. And it's a really beautiful text. So this is what it looks like here, for those of you guys that want to see. And we are in a series called Manual for Teachers in the back of the book. So the book is divided into 3 parts. The first part of the course is the text. And this text is basically the theology, the theory behind the teachings of the course. So the course basically is just a self-study book that really just looks at our lives through 2 different lenses. In any situation, in every single relationship, there is nothing that is neutral that is ever happening. It is simply teaching us to look through the lens of either love or fear, and simply to be able to recognize that. So the text basically kind of goes through the way that we live and the way that we see this world, and the way that the Holy Spirit and Christ consciousness will look at the world. So those are 2, it's very simple in that way. And we measure our life and our advancement in the course through consistency of peace. Okay, that's how we measure. And it goes into, what is peace, says that any doubt in our mind, anytime that we don't trust that God is running the show, we are already losing peace. And it's not the different sizes of peace or difficulty of peace, but that all loss of peace, all agitations, all conflicts, questions, doubts, they are equally disturbing to the mind. All right, and then there is another section called the Workbook for Students, which is 365 lessons. They're very short, but it's systematically shifting your mind from a place of fear, from a place of control, to a place of love and trust and faith. And then there is the Manual for Teachers. A Manual for Teachers is questions that students of the course will have, and then also how to step into this role of being a teacher of God. And what does that even mean? So this is kind of the series that we're going through right now. And then in the back of some versions of the course, there is a clarification of terms. Like what is the Holy Spirit? What is forgiveness? What is peace? Things like that. So always in a way that is basically upside down of the way that we have it in the world. So, welcome. Thank you. I am grateful this morning for the opportunity to be in this space with you guys. I know that to take an hour or an hour and a half out of your time to join us in the teachings of the course, it's a lot. We take an hour and a half out of our busy days. So I really appreciate, you guys being here and to be on this journey with me. Some of you guys been doing this for 8 years with me, which has been, it's been really cool. So I'll open it today with intentions and an opening prayer for us. All right, so I'll keep an eye on the Zoom and let people in, and also open our prayer here today. All right, so as we begin this gathering here today, let's just bring to the forefront of our minds anything that is challenging, anything in our minds that we don't have certainty around. There's unresolved conflicts in our lives, people that we have not yet forgiven, people that are triggering us, situations that we don't yet have the outcome or trust in. So you could bring any of these things to your mind. And as we gather here today, this morning, beloved Father, thank you for this opportunity to gather. And we come before you today with a grateful heart and willingness in our mind. Thank you for bringing each one of us here exactly as we are, exactly where we are. And we're reminded that no one is where they are by accident, and chance plays no part in your plans. So, yeah, help us trust every relationship, help us trust every challenge, every joy, everything that's happening in our lives, all circumstances. Help bring trust and forgiveness to that place. Allow it to be a place of it's a classroom for us for forgiveness and for our own awakening. Teach us to not ask what I should do, but instead ask, what would you have me do? Help us remember this question, this prayer for ourselves. And help us release any control of any form in our own lives. Let us become more interested in what we would be led to do. And instead of resisting our current situations and circumstances, may we discover the lessons that is beyond it. Let us not see the world with our eyes, but rather see beyond it and see through it. And we offer this time, we offer this gathering to you. Guide our thoughts, guide our hearts, guide our minds. Let every word that we hear today, let every conversation that happens on this call today bring us closer to remembering who we are and to be able to see one another through the eyes of Christ. Amen. Aho. Welcome again, everybody. And as we go into, we're going to recap a little bit of the journey we've come so far. And we're in the Manual for Teachers. So welcome. If it's your first time, this is the teachings of A Course in Miracles. Know that you are not here by accident, and there is probably something that you will hear that will shift and shift the way that you perceive relationships, things that you're going through. So I'm very grateful for you all being here and joining us today. So in the beginning of the Manual for Teachers, we begin in section 1 with who are God's teachers? Who are God's teachers? And the answer is simply anyone that chooses to learn forgiveness. Anyone that makes the qualification consists of somewhere, sometime that we have deliberately made a deliberate choice in which we did not see our interests as apart from someone else's. So this is literally the only requirement of the qualifications of being a God's teacher. It's not about being perfect. It's not about being enlightened already. It's simply that we choose to learn forgiveness. And we'll talk about what forgiveness may be a little bit later today. It's different from the way that we have it in the world. It's actually upside down from that. And so, the teacher of God is not somebody that knows more. It's just really somebody that is willing. It's a openness. It's a willingness to see and look at the world differently. Perhaps be able to look at things through the lens of love. And this is what the Course says. A miracle is not something happening on the external. A miracle is simply a shift in our mind from seeing from the perspective of fear to the perspective of love. So we all have, we know this. Like we've seen things. We've seen something happening in our lives, and there's one way to see is like, oh, why is this happening to me? And then there's another perspective which is, wow, what is actually opening up for me? What is closing and what is opening? So this is the difference between seeing through the lenses of fear and the lenses of love. And so a miracle is simply just a shift in our mind from a place of fear, from a place of judgment, control, attack, to acceptance, to compassion, to kindness. And that's really all that a miracle is. And this, it's called a course in miracles. How do we shift our minds from from fear to love? And then section 2 of the Manual for Teachers is who are their pupils? Who are the pupils and who are the teachers of God? And if everyone became a teacher, then who are the students? And the course actually makes a very clear distinction that a teacher and a student is actually just two coming together for a dance. So everyone is a teacher and everyone is also a student, because every encounter is either teaching love or teaching fear. There are no neutral circumstances. There are no neutral relationships. Every interaction is a part of God's curriculum. So this is the who are the pupils, right? So understanding that the moment that a teacher is ready, the student will appear. The moment that the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And every relationship is a classroom. Every moment is an opportunity to learn, whether we are seeing through the lenses of fear or the lenses of love. And then section 3 is what are the levels of teaching? So not that there are big teachers and small teachers, but there is 3 levels of teachers. One is somebody that you may just run into. It's a quick smile, a quick conversation that shifts your mind, that allows you to become more loving, become more kind. It's a stranger. And then level 2 is somebody that comes into your life and somebody that it's an intense relationship and then seems to separate, right? So we all have these people that came into our lives to teach us. Those are level 2 teachers. Level 3 teachers, the course says, these are people that have, those are learning partners, which presents us with unlimited opportunities for learning. So these are probably like our family members, right? Our kids. These are level 3 teachers. So, every one of these have the opportunity to change us forever, so no matter what level they are. And yeah, every encounter is an opportunity for a miracle. And then section 4 is one of my favorite sections of the Manual for Teachers. It's what are the characteristics of God's teachers, right? These are not accomplishments, but these are something that we become. These are natural characteristics that come as a result of healing, of natural healing and surrendering our will to the will of God. And so it all begins with trust. From there, it's the development of trust. As we grow, as trust grows, control begins to fade, fear begins to fade, our planning and all these things, we start to be less rigid, right? We start to be less rigid about what we want to accomplish in our lives, but rather what does God want us to accomplish? And life becomes guided. Like we feel like we're guided instead of like trying to rearrange the furniture constantly of our lives, but that we feel guided. We see these people are coming into our lives at the exact time. The opportunity is showing up at the exact time. So as we develop trust, we start to feel more guided rather than trying to control everything. So one of my favorite lines in this section that I've underlined is that this world and the teacher of God is governed by a power that is in them, not of them. Okay, so this is a great line. So the power is in us because God is in us, love is in us, but the power is not of us. We did not create this power. We are actually an outcome of the gifts that's been given to us, right? So what else would we even need to know in this life if we know that the power is within us, not of us, right? So I love this line in this section too. So really the goal of the course is to become more available. It's to become more available to receive, and connecting our will to the will of God. And then we move on to section 5, which is how is healing accomplished? Right, this is a great section because if healing is available, then why aren't we healed already? So there is a perceived purpose of sickness, why we actually find value in it. The Course says we aren't healed. Our minds, we are not awakened and fully enlightened because the ego still sees suffering sees value in suffering. So this line says, healing must occur in exact proportion to which the valueless of sickness is recognized. So what is sickness? Sickness is like victimhood. It could be physical sickness, but it's also, a lot of it is from mental. We know that when we are mentally sick and when we are stressed, like it's going to create form on some level on the physical realm. So the Course is talking about sickness here is the perception of why there is value in being a victim. Why is there value in the identity? Why is there value in protection? Why is there value in avoidance, in responsibilities? You know, and as long as we carry that, you know, there is value in being sick, that I can avoid the responsibilities, right? I can continue to sit in victimhood. I can get sympathy. I can get something for the sickness. And as long as we protect the suffering, then our healing is not accomplished, right? So we can see that the transition of where we are in the Manual for Teachers is about letting go. When suffering begins to lose its purpose, healing begins to happen. So it's happening in exact proportion with each other. And then section 6, is healing certain? Healing is always certain because truth is certain. Our responsibility is not the external outcomes of something, but rather our responsibility is simply to extend love and give over the outcome of when the outcome happens, when the results happen, how it happens, how somebody becomes healed. We just extend love, but oftentimes the ego looks at the result. No, are they healed now? Are they still unkind? Are they still, complaining? Are they still in their victimhood? We have an idea of how healing's supposed to be. The Course says, let all those things go. Worry just about extending. So my favorite line in this section is that no one can give if he is concerned with the results of giving. And that's literally the only thing we have to think about is, did I extend love? The outcome belongs to God, but did I extend love? All right, so healing is always uncertain in this way. Now, section 7 of the Manual for Teachers is, should healing be repeated? And the ego, of course, after we extend love, the ego immediately goes, did it work? We sit with some plant medicine with ayahuasca or whatever. And we're like, wait, did it work? Or did we go back to it? And the Course says, no, healing does not need repeating, but trust does. All right, so we go back into this section is great because it says that the moment that you are concerned if it works or not, whether it's on somebody else or on yourself, you're now the one that needs healing. Because your mind went into doubt. Because those that are in complete trust have no doubts. And certainty comes from trust. Right? So the certainty is not shaken. Maybe the results and the outcome doesn't look exactly the way that we thought it would, but our certainty is not shaken, and this is the healed version, is somebody that is in full trust. And it goes moment to moment. Right, so the line that Jill loves in this section is, doubt is the result of conflicting wishes. Be sure of what you want, and doubt becomes impossible. So healing is not delayed by God. Sometimes we're like, wait, but we did all this work, or we extended love, and I was kind, and I forgave, but they didn't do X, Y, Z. This didn't happen. So healing is not delayed by God. It is delayed by divided desires. And remember, the Course says the qualifications of a manual for teachers is not to have divided desires, to also see that you and all your brothers and sisters have the same interests. There is no divided desires. All right, so we can, the teachers, the teacher of God, the job of a teacher of God is just simply to be present in that moment and to remember for others as well. All right, and now we went into section 8, which is how can perception of order of difficulty be avoided. So the biggest problem with what up, Shonday? The biggest problem with the ego is that we see that some things are bigger than others. Some illnesses seem harder. Some people seem more impossible to forgive. But the Course says miracles are not measured in difficulty. Only the ego measures everything in difficulty. And to measure difficulty requires judgment, and we'll talk about judgment maybe a little bit into our section today. So the body's eyes will always see through differences, and only the mind. So this section I love because the mind is in charge of seeing. Right? We think that the eyes are in charge of seeing, but the eyes are literally seeing things and the mind is interpreting it. So the mind is actually in charge of, is responsible for seeing. So we can say that A Course in Miracles does not change what we're looking at, right? We see things out there with our physical eyes, but miracles change the mind that is looking. All right, so as we transition to today's beautiful teaching is section 9, which is, are changes required in the situation of a God's teacher? So if the teacher of God, a new teacher, like if I'm a new teacher, naturally the question would be, does my life situation have to change? If my perception changes, if healing is happening in the mind, then what happens to my life? Right? Do I have to leave? Do I have to leave my job? Do I have to leave my relationship? Do I have to move elsewhere? Do I have to start over? Sometimes when we receive these types of teachings, it seems like it makes sense that we should just live like a monk, and but this is not what the Course is teaching at all. The Course actually is saying that changes happen in the mind of God's teacher, so we actually just change our relationship to all the things around us. We don't have to actually physically do anything. We change our minds around it. The Course says the world does not need to change, does not need healing. The mind that is seeing the world needs healing. So again, today's my favorite line in this section is, remember that no one is where he is by accident, and chance plays no part in God's plans. None of us are awakening at a time that is not exactly where we're supposed to be, and every one of us have classrooms that the Holy Spirit decides to teach us in, the relationships that we're in, the things that are happening. So before reading this section, the first 8 sections that we just talked about changes the way that we see things, and section 9 asks whether we trust our current life is already in a perfect place of practice. So it's going to ask this. And so I'll get into this read. It's a very short read. I may go into section 10, which is how is judgment relinquished. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how the conversations goes here today. But yeah, let's just read this section. So, all right, before we start reading, the invitation is to just present yourself to this short period of time that we're going to read this 2 paragraphs. And rather than trying to understand it with our intellectual, logical mind, the invitation is to remove the need to compare, the need to understand, the need to analyze. This is the invitation, and see if we can just allow these words to just land in the space of emptiness. Okay? And this is what the Course says. The Course does not require you to do anything besides be more willing. Be more willing, be more open. All right? So, section 9, are changes required in the life situation of God's teachers? One sec, letting somebody in. Okay. Changes are required in the minds of God's teachers. This may or may not involve changes in the external conditions. Remember that no one is where he is by accident, and chance plays no part in God's plan. It is most unlikely that changes in attitudes would not be the first step in the newly made teacher of God's training. There is, however, no set pattern, since training is always highly individualized. Every one of us have our individualized trainings, classrooms, a piece of the garden that we are to tend to. By far, the majority are given... There are those who are called upon to change their life situations almost immediately, but these are generally special cases. By far, the majority are given a slow, evolving training program in which as many previous mistakes as possible are corrected. Relationships, in particular, must be properly perceived, and all dark cornerstones of unforgiveness removed. Otherwise, the old thought system still has a basis for return. As the teacher of God advances in his training, he learns one lesson with increasing thoroughness. He does not make his own decisions. He asks his teacher for his answer, and it is this he follows as his guide for action. This becomes easier and easier as the teacher of God learns to give up his own judgment. The giving up of judgment, the obvious prerequisite for hearing God's voice, is usually a fairly slow process. Not because it is difficult, but because it is apt to be perceived as personally insulting. The world's training is directed towards achieving a goal in direct opposition to that of our curriculum. The world trains for reliance on one's own judgment as the criterion for maturity and strength. Our curriculum trains for the relinquishment of judgment as the necessary condition of salvation. So this is this is what the changes that are required in the life situations of God's teachers is not external things. You know, it's not to change your career immediately. It's not to sell everything. Maybe, but those are very, very rare cases, right? Those are very special cases. Most of us are given continuous, slow, evolving training programs. People coming into our lives, people triggering us, people causing us to feel betrayed, to feel let down, you know, and then we have this chance to practice forgiveness. These are all places where forgiveness gets to be learned. And yeah, I would love to open it up right now for some thoughts about what we've shared up to this point, whether it's anywhere along the lines of the manual for teachers right now, or what we've kind of shared today so far. And I think we will have time to go into one of my favorite sections of the course, which is how is judgment relinquished? Because we just mentioned here that our curriculum in the course trains for the relinquishment of judgment as a necessary condition of salvation. And we'll talk about what that means, you know, because as the teacher of God progresses, trust and guidance become easier and easier as as we realize that we don't make our own decisions, as we give up our own judgment. This is the prerequisite to hearing God's voice. And oftentimes life beats us down to our knees before we're willing to say, this way doesn't really work. God, can you show me a new way? Right? We oftentimes have to learn the lessons the hard way rather than just practice the relinquishment of judgment now. And this is actually the next section. So section 10, we can do it together because it's a short section, not section 9. But yeah, any thoughts, feedback from anybody from wherever? Facebook, Instagram, Zoom. Any thoughts for today? Or shall we just move on to section 10 of Manual for Teachers, which is this section. After I read this section, there's probably, I anticipate that there will be much, much more engagement from everybody here. All right, then. We will go into how is judgment relinquished. So section 10, I wasn't sure if there will have time for that. I was going to just kind of keep it into a conversation type. But obviously, as a collective group, we are wanting to move into this next section. So again, the world trains for reliance on one's own judgment as a criteria for our maturity and our strength and our wisdom. This is what the world sees. Rely on yourself. Rely on your judgment. You know all the answers. But the power is in us. It's not of us. All right? So the curriculum trains for the relinquishment of judgment as necessary condition for salvation. And so section 10 of the Manual for Teachers is how is judgment relinquished. I refer to this section often because it's probably one of the most profound sections that landed for me. How is judgment relinquished? And so we'll talk about judgment here, and we'll talk about the relinquishment of it, and that it's actually not difficult to do once we recognize what we're about to read here. So all of us, we judge every day. Every single day we are judging. We are judging whether food is good for us or it's not good for us, if we are good for the planet, if somebody is good in our lives, if we should make a good investment. We are making judgments constantly and making meaning of things. So the Course tells us that we are never upset at external conditions. We are upset at the meaning we've assigned to it. We are upset at the identity that we have projected onto others and onto ourselves. We are protecting our own identity, our own philosophies. And the ego is always protecting the idea that separation is real. So this is why we are constantly finding problems and conflicts in our lives. All right, so for the Manual for Teachers, now we're moving on to a really important section of how judgment is relinquished. And as I read in this section, allow whatever to come to your mind to come to your mind. And what comes to your mind, be willing to share. Be willing to contribute to the space. Be willing to give the gift of your lived experience into this space. All right, so section 10 of Manual for Teachers is how is judgment relinquished? And we will start here. Judgment, like other devices by which the world of illusions is maintained, is totally misunderstood by the world. It is actually confused with wisdom and substitutes for truth. As the world uses the term, an individual is capable of good, quote unquote good, and quote unquote bad judgment, and his education aims at strengthening the former and minimizing the latter. So our education is training us to make good judgments more than bad judgments. Further, even the same person classifies the same action as showing good judgment at one time and then bad judgment at another time. So the same situation. In one time, we're like, ooh, yeah, that was a really great judgment. And then another time, we're like, ooh, the same exact thing. We're like, that was not so good. So it's already changing, right? Nor can any consistent criteria for determining what these categories are be really taught. So we can't even really teach ourselves or each other or use any evidence to say this will always be a good judgment or this will always be a bad judgment. Right? So we don't even have a category. So now we have two things. One, we're trying to strengthen good judgments and lessen minimizing bad judgments. Two, we can't even tell if we're making good judgments or bad judgments because our thinking about it as we grow and mature changes about the same situation. At one point in my life, I was like, yeah, that was such a great judgment. It was such a good thing to do. And then now looking back, I'm like, oh man, that was terrible. Or vice versa. This is such a terrible thing that's happening to me. And then now in this time, I'm like, wow, that divorce was the best thing that could have happened to me. Right? So if these things are changing, then how do we even know in the moment what's a good judgment, what's a bad judgment? So then number 3 is we don't even have a criteria. We don't even have a way to analyze and to teach ourselves to look at it in this way. So this is about our judgment right now, right? At any time, the student may disagree with what his would-be teacher says about them. And the teacher himself may well be inconsistent with what he believes. Good judgment, in these terms, does not mean anything. No more does bad. So now the first paragraph is to say, your judgments, now that you see the contradiction of everything, they don't mean anything. Now, they don't mean anything, not in a way that like it's like you're stupid or I'm stupid. It's just recognizing it for what it is right now, that our judgments in general, they don't mean anything at all. So let's see if we can try that on as we continue. It is necessary. So now calling on the teacher of God as we are in this section. Know that if you are listening to this, you are already in this place, in this position. You are ready to be a teacher of God. It is necessary for the teacher of God to realize not that he should not judge, but that he cannot. In giving up judgment, he is merely giving up what he did not have. He gives up an illusion, or better yet, he has an illusion of giving up. He has actually merely become more honest. Remember, in the characteristics of God's teachers, honesty is to recognize the position that you are in. So you don't take on a position that doesn't belong to you. Judgment on this in this conversation then would be judgment belongs to God. So the characteristics of trust in God is the relinquishment of my judgment, which naturally comes with the other characteristics of tolerance and patience and honesty and generosity and joy and open-mindedness and defenselessness. Right? These are characteristics that come because judgment is relinquished. So the teacher of God gives up an illusion. We gave up an illusion that we are something that we are not, that we are capable of this space. Okay, I give that up. And then, or better yet, he has an illusion of giving up. If we believe that we have to give something up as a sacrifice, then resentment is to follow down the road. So we oftentimes confuse love with sacrifice. Right? It's like a noble thing to sacrifice. This is the ultimate form of love. Jesus sacrificed himself for us. But the Course is not focused on the crucifixion, because that is everything leading up to that is all just events that are happening. The important thing is when Christ resurrected. Who did he have to be? What did he have to let go of so that Christ resurrects? The resurrected version of Christ is what the Course talks about, is Christ consciousness. A lot of people really focus on the life of Jesus. and then normalizes and makes Jesus like a man so that it justifies the actions that we do. So we're projecting also onto Jesus' life when he was living as a man. Now, he did perform lots of miracles. He was on this path of enlightenment for sure. But what's important is the outcome, is the resurrection of Christ, not the crucifixion of Christ. All right, so we have an illusion of giving up. We don't want to think that we're giving up something that we're actually giving up. So we gave up an illusion, and we have an illusion of giving up. He has actually become more honest. Recognizing that judgment was always impossible for him, he no longer attempts it. This is no sacrifice. On the contrary, he puts himself in a position where judgment through him rather than by him can occur. And this judgment is neither good nor bad. It is the only judgment there is, and it is the only one. God's Son is guiltless, and sin does not exist. This is why I said we don't want to use our logical mind to think about this. Because now if we use logical, egoic mind, we're going to say, what do you mean sin doesn't exist? What do you mean the Son of God is guiltless? And then we look to evidence. All right, we look to evidence of people that we are going to judge, of why this is not real. So we're looking with our spiritual sight. We're seeing through our mind right now, not our physical eyes. The aim of our curriculum, unlike the goal of the world's learning, is the recognition that judgment in the usual sense is impossible. This is not an option. This is not an option, but a fact. In order to judge anything rightly, this section is one of my favorite sections. It's profoundly shifted my life because every time I judge, I laugh at myself. It's no longer, I don't have no interest in the shifting of any external things. I just laugh at myself for judging. Because in order to judge anything rightly, one would have to be fully aware of an inconceivably wide range of things, past, present, and to come. One would have to recognize in advance all the effects of his judgment on everyone and everything involved in them in any way. And one would have to be certain that there is no distortion in his perception so that his judgment would be wholly fair to everyone on whom it rests now and in the future. Who is in the position to do this? Who except in grandiose fantasies will claim this for himself? So it's not that we shouldn't judge. The Course is saying you are not capable. Because in order to judge, you need to, all of these things need to be in place. And none of these we can say with a serious face that we are capable really of any of this. That our mind, there is no distortion in my perception whatsoever. Can we say this? No. That our judgment will be wholly fair to everyone whom it rests now and in the future. No way. And one would have to be fully aware of a wide range of things, how my judgment affects everyone and everything involved, past, present, and future. It's too big. It's too big. How can we even do that? So when we recognize that judgment doesn't belong to me, I don't even have the capacity to do so. I'm not capable. In what grandiose fantasy can I claim this for myself? So every time we judge, we can now think about this. You can judge anything. Judge it as good, judge it as bad. The Course says in the beginning, it was like, all of this means nothing. Because you aren't capable of judging. Remember how many times you thought you knew all the facts you needed for judgment and how wrong you were. Is there anyone who has not had this experience? Has any one of us never misjudged a situation, a person, anything? All right, so we all have had this experience that we thought we knew all the facts and we made a judgment and we realized how wrong we were. Would you know how many times you merely thought you were right without ever realizing you were wrong? Now that's another one right there. We all have had the experience, but also it would be it would blow our minds to recognize how many times we thought we were wrong without ever realizing, we were right without ever realizing we were wrong. There are so many things happening in our lives that we've made judgments on right now. We aren't even aware of the fact that we are wrong. So there's all of that hidden in the shadows too. Why would you choose such an arbitrary basis for decision making? Wisdom is not judgment. It is the relinquishment of judgment. Make then but one more judgment. It is this: there is someone with you whose judgment is perfect. And these are capital letters, okay? Someone is capitalized. Whose judgment is capitalized. He does know all the facts, past, present, and to come. He does know all the effects of his judgment on everyone and everything involved in any way, and he is wholly fair to everyone, for there is no distortion in his perception. You guys know who we're talking about, right? Therefore, lay judgment down, not with regret, but with a sigh of gratitude. Now you are free of a burden so great that you could merely stagger and fall down beneath it. And it was all illusion, nothing more. Now can the teacher of God rise up unburdened and walk lightly on. Yet it is not in this that is his benefit. His sense of care is gone, for he has none. He has given it away along with judgment. He gave himself to God, whose judgment he has chosen now to trust instead of his own. Now he makes no mistakes. His guide is sure, and where he came to judge, he comes to bless. Where now he laughs, he used to come to weep. It is not difficult to relinquish judgment, but it is difficult indeed to try to keep it. The teacher of God lays it down happily the instant he recognizes its costs. All the ugliness he sees about him is its outcome. All of the pain he looked upon is its results. All the loneliness and sense of loss, of passing time and growing hopelessness, of sickening despair and the fear of death, all these have come of it. And now he knows that these things need not be. Not one is true, for he has given up their cause, and they, which never were, but the effects of his mistaken choice, have fallen behind him. Teacher of God, this step will bring you peace. Can it be difficult? Can it be difficult to want but this? So this section has been the most profound, probably the single most profound teaching in the course that has affected my life and to shape me to become who I am today. This section. To just realize that who am I to make any judgments? And when I do, I also don't judge that I judged. Right? There's just like levels and levels and levels of this as we just continuously give it up. In every single moment, be able to give up your judgment to God, to the one who is actually in the position to judge. Because we are certainly not. And the Course just called us out on everything right here. And we can every one of us can relate to this. And I think we can all look at how absurd it's been that we've been making all these judgments our whole lives, and every one of our upsets can be attributed to the fact that we are making judgments. That's it. Right? So the teacher of God now walks after this section, after this practice, after this recognition that the judgment does not belong to us. Wisdom is the relinquishment of judgment so that we may be guided. We walk with confidence that this giving up of judgment is not making us any less, but that it releases a huge burden that's on our own shoulders all the time. Right? We have this burden of judgment all the time. And so if we can release this, the Course is like, you can stagger and fall over all of this and fall down beneath it, because it's such a huge illusion of what we thought we were carrying on our shoulders. And this is basically the same teaching as the entire Course, of just another way to say, be in the right position. God is in this position. Be in the right position to give over your challenges and the things that you took responsibility of over to God, who's in the position to make these judgments, and for us simply to become more connected. Our only problem is our disconnection from our Creator, from the universe, from God, whatever you want to call it. And our life is hard because we're taking on all these things of this world. The world pushes us, right? The world trains us for reliance on our own judgment as a sign of strength and maturity and wisdom. It is the opposite of what the Course is teaching us right now. Is to walk with God and to see that every relationship is an opportunity for miracles. To see where we once was afraid, where we once, the Course says, where we once weep, now we laugh. Where we once judge, we come to bless. When we are in this state of recognition and awakening, of consciousness and awareness, we are a blessing wherever we go, because we carry God with us. We bring God into everything that we touch, everything we see. So, yeah, this is one of the most profound teachings for me, and I continue to witness myself in this curriculum, in this training program every single day. If you take this with you, you need no other practices than to just watch yourself judge and then laugh at your own judgments, because you don't even have the capability to do so. There's an illusion that we can judge, but we can't, right? So, yeah, thoughts? Love to hear some thoughts from people on the call, whether you're wherever you are. This is, again, the most profound section of the Course, right? Anybody have thoughts or want to share anything? Whatever's on your mind is good.
I love the idea of laughing at ourselves, because if we don't laugh, then we judge ourselves for judging, which just causes more judging. So that was really a good takeaway. I love the lightning, it's less shame, it's less judgment, and I laugh at myself often, because I was raised to judge by my religion.
Mm-hmm.
If I had a description of my childhood, it'd be black and white, right and wrong. Like, that's it. That's how I was. And when I let that down, and I can't say completely released it, because I'm here, right? I'm still human. I'm still doing the things. But I physically felt the release off of my shoulders. And I think I don't know, in the United States, we seem to be a culture of judgment a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just so profound. I'm so glad I hopped back in today. This was good timing for me. But I do really, really, really love, and this is why I love doing A Course in Miracles with you, is because you bring a lightness and a joy, and you always bring it back to love. Because otherwise, we're freaking beating ourselves up with these words, right? I think that's one of the things that I see so much in religions is people just take it as a sledgehammer to beat the crap out of each other.
Yeah.
And I love the laughing at it, like, oh, there I did the thing again. Oh, there I am doing the thing about judging myself about doing the thing.
Yeah. The Course says the fall of man was when the Son of God forgot to laugh. right? The
Oh, I love
beginning, the
that.
Course actually says the beginning of the birth of separation, the fall from heaven was we took one idea too seriously. And that idea was, it's the Course calls it the tiny mad idea. But the idea is, what if I could be something other than this? And the consciousness took it, the fall was we took it seriously. We forgot to laugh at it. And we took it seriously. And we started to separate ourselves. A separate consciousness was birthed from there. But it's not real. But the ego has made it so real that we have, all thought, every thought manifests form on some level. So that initial tiny mad idea created this whole world that we live in now. If we believe that our, and I'll take something simple, like we all know that stress will lead to physical sickness, no? We can all agree on that part. And it's almost like they've scientifically proven that, which they cannot, because all they're doing is looking at possibilities of people being stressed and somebody is sick. They're like, oh yeah, we connect these two dots and stress leads to sickness. But on some level, we are believing that now our mental thoughts, our thoughts create form. And it does. When we believe that we can be abundant, we start to bring it. If we believe we are always scarce and there's not enough and we keep thinking this, and that's of course what brings into our space. So thought creates form. All right. Now, if that's the case, then this original tiny mad idea thought is also creating form constantly. And it must, because it's a thought that is not true and it's not real, it's a dream, it's an illusion, it can change. The thought can change. This is the perception. The thought can change. But since it hasn't changed, and for all of our existence, that thought has created bodies that are separate, created spirits that seem to be separate, right? So if we think that we can be separate, now in form, we have constantly been creating this. And the ego, because the ego's main mission is to have us believe that separation is real, then everything in this world is showing us that it's real. It must protect itself. Any illusion must continue to protect itself in order to remain real. And it's like what the Course also says, darkness needs constant reinforcement in order to exist. Because when light touches anything that is dark, it automatically turns to light. And so in order for us to keep darkness there, then what we must do is keep building shelters or shades to block the light out. And this is what the ego is doing, is it needs to keep reinforcing all the little patches. Even if we learn that judgment does not belong to us and we're like, yes, I like this, I think I'm going to take this, there is going to be another way in which the ego comes in and uses it against you and uses it against others. So it might look like, now I'm going to take this and tell you that you shouldn't judge because of X, Y, Z. But the moment that we even identified that somebody needs this teaching, we have made a judgment in our mind already. It already began here at its source, but it seems like it's separate. So this is why a lot of people take on so many new tools, communication tools, relationship tools, work with plant medicines and get, kind of come in contact with spirit or something. And then the ego is always listening with you. The ego can take it and weaponize it, use it against others, use it against yourself without you even seeing that it's happening. The ego's like, oh, look, you're more enlightened. Good job. Now do it. Teach it to them and tell them because they need it. Boom. Separation, judgment. How sneaky it comes back in. So all of this work is just, it's all for us to see with our own minds only. And if we can start to take this work and make it personal, this is why we always say, Course in Miracles, make it personal for you only. Because this whole world is just a movie that you are scripting. Everything. You are scripting it. Am I muted? Maybe I am. Let's see.
I
I can
can
hear
hear
you.
you, Alex.
No, I think on the IG Live because somebody called me. It went into something and came back. I don't know if I'm muted. Can you guys hear me on the IG stories? Testing, testing. Anyways, yeah, so amazing. Beautiful lessons, yeah? Other thoughts, comments around what we shared today? This is a lot. Any other thoughts?
Gratitude. Thank you. I don't have like something to say other than just like I'm so grateful for these calls and this community and just all of it. So just thank you so much.
Yeah, amazing. Now, what can we take away from all of this today, right? Like maybe like let's just s- reinforcing this for ourselves. Like what are we taking away from being here today, right? Like it's not just like, oh yeah, that was really great what we talked about, and then we come off the call and we don't remember anything. Like what can we take on? Is there anybody that have feel like something that you can incorporate, implement into your lives now?
I think that oftentimes we can always get reinforcement for our belief system. We can always find someone who will say, "Oh, yeah, oh, that happened to you. Oh, blah, 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 blah. I'm so sorry." Or, "Yeah, you were right." Or, and when you tell, depending on how you tell your story, you can get a lot of reinforcement. Anyone can.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's kind of dangerous because you've already made a judgment before you started your story, oftentimes. And especially because you're going to share that story.
Mm-hmm.
And so it reinforces whatever it is that you have made up about the incident, whatever that might be. So maybe it's best to not say anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have a judgment. I mean, like I have a judgment about something. Even saying it is a reinforcement because you're giving it beyond the shape of thought. You're giving it something more concrete, which is a word. And so if you keep it to yourself, sometimes you find out that what you thought about it might not be true. And but you also, I think for myself, I also have to put in there that that might not be true for myself. Like I have a judgment about it. How do you put yourself in someone else's shoes to see that there's another point of view
Mm-hmm.
that is? So I think like it's, it just is the level of which you want to reinforce that. So even talking about it is a level of giving it more power. Like I used to say, I don't even want to say like a C word because that gives it power. Like the things that I think are
What's the C
negative.
word?
Cancer. Cancer, because like it's
Cancer. Oh, okay.
cancer is like made up. It's disease. So it's a disease, and we've given it all this power, and everybody is so invested in, curing cancer and feeling bad for people that have cancer or whatever. Everybody's very invested in the disease, but we give it a lot of power by even giving it a label, by even giving it a word, by even giving it an identity.
Mm-hmm.
We give, I don't know, and then judgment.
So even in that, even in this idea that if we speak it, we give it power, this is a
Mhm.
false idea that we also have as well, because we just gave, we created a thing that isn't even a thing. Like, does it give it power? Sometimes. Does it not give it power, sometimes not. It depends on how you're looking at it. So the teacher of God begins to look through these things. You can say any word you want because you can see through it all. It doesn't even have power. To say that, to not to say the word, also gives it power.
I don't know. I think less so, but maybe that's the thought. I mean, but I'll think about that.
Yeah.
Because
So, because you're giving the word, to give it anything is giving it power, right? I'm going to say it or I'm not going to say it. To not going to say it is also giving it some kind of strength and existence, right? I'm not going to say the word, meaning if I say it, I'm going to give it power. That means I'm also saying, by not saying it, that it exists. And every time I not say it, the existence still grows. Because in my mind, it still exists. That's why I'm saying I don't want to say it. Right? So like this is as far, it goes this far. Like the teacher of God is looking beyond it, like looking through it to the Christ consciousness, to the healed already of it. So if I'm seeing through it, then it doesn't matter if I say it or not, because it doesn't mean anything to me. Right? So it's only the healing. This is the healing in our own mind. It's not that it truly exists externally or not. Nothing actually on the level of spirit of this world exists. It's all part of our mind construct. Right? So to give it any power is giving it power. We can't let the illusion go just by, it's like, okay, I'm gonna master my fears around things, and I'm gonna master it by doing XYZ, and I'm gonna pray and meditate and go to qigong and go to yoga, doing all these things to master something. The course is like, the fact that you try to do things to try to master it just continues to grow the existence of it. It just gets bigger and bigger. And you think you're in temporary moments fixing a symptom to something, but all you're doing is growing the existence of it, and it will just show up. It will show its head somewhere else. Real healing comes to a point where you're like, I'm just tired of even trying to do anything about it. I don't give a shit anymore. And then the thing starts to disappear. Right? But as long as we keep trying to conquer something, I'm going to work on my childhood abandonment issue. I'm going to keep working on it. The fact that you keep working on it makes it real for you. Forgiveness is to recognize what you thought happened didn't happen. Not to keep bringing it up every day to try to conquer it. All right. So that's like it's deep, A Course in Miracles work, And for you guys that are on this call and in this series of Manual for Teachers, like, you're ready for this conversation. And yeah, so anyways, that's that. What else?
So good. So good.
So good, so good.
I'm over here just laughing my ass off.
It is. This is why I laugh so much. I laugh at everything, everyone, every situation, just because I'm like, oh, not even the situation is funny. It's just like, I just judged it. And it's become hilarious in my own mind around me judging things, and
So
yeah.
I'm thinking about times I've been in your presence and I've seen you do that, and now I understand it. Like I have a specific moment that I'm like, oh, that's why he was laughing.
Yeah, it's like things aren't even funny, but I just start laughing at something, because this is because of this. This is constantly happening, and I laugh at how many times I have made judgments and been so wrong about it, and that I'm probably wrong in this moment again, So, yeah. Amazing.
Alex, I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. All right, Michelle, what up?
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Good. I just thought I'd share. I'm not even sure it relates to, kind of what we just talked about. But yeah, I just personally feel like I'm hopping on calls when I can. And I feel like right now, I am in this world funk, like I'm in a funk. You know, I
Mm.
have the last year, just for various reasons, have been tough, and I feel like I've always been the light for people,
Mm.
and now I feel like it's really hard to show up as the light, and it's really bothering me. But yet, you know, it still happens. You know, lots of triggers going on. Elderly mom who, you know, is expecting her children to kind of be there all the time
Mm-hmm.
and is getting, you know, dementia. Doesn't understand I have actually a job. So I guess the thing is, yeah, I'm sure others maybe feel like that. But for me right now, I'm in this funk of like, um, you know, my world, I'm stressed. Everything is stressful. You know, lots of doctor's appointments and just, yeah, trying to get back to kind of where I was, you know. And so these calls at times will help me more than others and just listening to others share. But yeah, I really been saying much, but yeah, so I'm looking to kind of get back to turning on the light. Although I've been getting, I guess I have judgment because I am saying, you know, why can't people like try to help themselves, you know,
Mm-hmm.
rather than relying on other people and putting their burden, you know, on, you know, me or me perceiving they are trying to figure out everything and having the answer to help everyone.
Mm.
So anyhow, it's nice to see everyone. I enjoy all the shares. So that I that is kind of what I had today.
Yeah. Thank you for that share because, you know, every one of us have these moments that are hard for us, you know, and the course is like, don't focus on external circumstances. The focus is the conviction to see with God in these moments. You know, that the trust and the certainty is unwavering. So what that means is knowing, I know that these people are doing the best that they can. I know that this is a season in my time that I'm experiencing this, but can I change my relationship to this time and this experience? Because you could enjoy it. You could enjoy the suffering. You could enjoy this experience. You know, I think about the one time that I did a cold plunge for 31 minutes. 31 minutes. It's painful. It does not feel good. It's not fun. But I was able to just be in the present moment and not think being cold is annoying, agitating, you know? And so I changed my relationship to the cold in that moment. And I was feeling every one of my cells activating, feeling the cold. I'm like, oh, I can enjoy this kind of experience. Now, do I want to do it again? No, I'm not doing it again. I did my one cold plunge. Now, unless somebody comes and does the 32-minute cold plunge, then my you know, competitive side might come out and I have to go sit in a cold plunge for 33 minutes. But no, nobody yet, so it's fine. None of my friends. But yeah, you know, like everyone's like, oh yeah, cold plunge is great. I'm like, yeah, it's awesome. It's great. You go do it. Right. But I have zero interest in going into a cold plunge period ever. But in the moment going through it, you could find joy in it. You could find so many beautiful lessons because in these times, it's where sometimes we are connected the most, right? When we are going through hard times is when we are really able to connect to ourselves and we're actually the willingness to surrender to God is easier in this time because we're like, obviously, if I knew what was best for me, I wouldn't be here. But since I don't know what's best for me, I have put myself in this situation and everyone's relying on me and somehow I've created this world for myself. I must not really know what's in my own best interest. And maybe this is not the way. God, show me the way. Right? Oftentimes people have to lose all their money, lose their loved ones, lose, their freedom. And this is why people in prison oftentimes find God. You have to lose everything in order to finally say, the way that I had it, I didn't. So it's these are really beautiful moments too, because it's a chapter, right? When we can trust that God is putting us in a position to remember God, to remember our connection. And the Course says only this remembrance will bring you calm, will calm your anxiety about life. And every lesson leads to the remembrance of God. And so it's good time to begin praying through these things and strengthening your conviction in faith, and it's in these times, like I thought I was really there with A Course in Miracles while I was in my marriage, like going through some challenges, until I went through a divorce. Then I was like, wow, this is a classroom. What was I even doing before? Where was my faith before? And so, there's probably many more deep lessons that I could learn about this. And the Course says the stakes will get higher and higher if you don't learn your lesson. If you don't learn the lesson of trusting and walking with God, then there will be more things that will be taken in a way that will be perceived as loss. And I like the one thing that you did say was you perceived it this way, right? So you've already separated the fact that what you think is the truth, because most people will say their perception as the truth in fact. But you already started to say, I perceive it this way. If you perceive it this way, that means you could perceive it another way. And this will be through prayer and asking for the Holy Spirit to let me perceive it a different way. Show me. I'm willing to give it up. I'm willing to be wrong about everything that I've been saying and I've been feeling and all of this. My judgments, I'm willing to give it all up. And now you can perceive it a different way. This is the great thing about perception, is I can perceive it this way and then I can perceive it another way. But if I think my perception is the truth, then I'm really lost. So really beautiful. Thank you for that share and the opportunity to riff on that.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
we got
Alec,
a couple more minutes. Yeah.
I just want to, when you were talking about, I wish I could remember your words exactly.
Me too.
But you're so funny. That God doesn't test us, but God allows us to have these moments so that we can move through them. Like he's not, it just, one of the hackles goes up when people are like, oh, God will never give you more than you can handle. And, he's testing you and he's, I do believe this is all for my benefit, but I don't ever believe that God creates all havoc and hell in my mind so that I can learn a lesson. I think that's my perception, my construct. And again, using the words to beat ourselves up, like God is not beating us up. He's just he's allowing us like little toddlers to fall down so that we can learn to walk. He's not being the person who takes the cocoon and doesn't want us to suffer, so he slices it open and then the butterfly can never fly. He lovingly says, I know you have the ability to break out of your cocoon. You can do it.
Maybe. I mean, those are all like whatever serves you to trust God more, use. But here is the thing of why that these curriculums even seem to exist. It exists because the way the world operates is in opposition. It's upside down of heaven. So because of the opposition of it, it creates suffering for us. We're trying to live in a way that is not flow, that is not of God, that is not of trust, that is not of seeing Christ consciousness in one another, we're constantly looking at separation. And then we're also constantly looking at control and ownership, and this belongs to me, and this is me. False identity, constantly reinforcing false identity, is our own reason why we're suffering. God's not even playing this game with us. It's not like God's giving us a lesson that we can't handle. We're just
That's what I'm
throwing
saying.
we're just throwing ourselves into a place where we create suffering, and then at some point we find closure and we find peace in trusting God. Like, God's not even doing any, like, he doesn't need to do anything or play any games with us. This is what the Course, like, the light doesn't need to fight the darkness. The light doesn't need to give the darkness any curriculum or lesson. You are reinforcing darkness on your own until you're finally tired of it, and then you just give it up. The end to all of the problems and the challenges that we have is giving it up. Like, I don't want it anymore. This is healing. This is what the Course says. Healing happens at the exact proportion in which you find valuelessness in suffering. Stop reinforcing your stuff that you don't want. Why are you reinforcing suffering? So we can say that God is going to give us, doesn't give us anything that we can't handle. No, it's just like, when we can't handle it anymore, the solution is giving it up. So we can handle everything just by surrendering, surrendering it over to the Holy Spirit and God. And that's really why we have suffering, because we live in direct opposition to the way that unity and oneness and returning to the sonship and salvation and forgiveness exists. We create situations which makes it seem like we need to forgive something, but there was never any forgiveness in the first place. And I give up holding the resentment. I give up holding the hot coal in my hand. Like, the challenges and the things that are in our lives is because we're holding this coal in our hand and it's burning us. The reason why it seems like we can always overcome any challenges is because we can just drop it. Nobody's gonna hold a coal until they die, right? You just be like, that's it, I'm done, drop it. Yeah, so cool. Thanks for that. We have 3 more minutes. I think Jill wants to share something. Yeah, Jill?
Um, well, I think it's what I was saying, a little bit of why I have that attitude. And it's like, I don't believe that cigarettes will kill you. And so I don't believe that. I believe it's a mass marketing thing. And I think that that's been foisted upon us. And it's the 60s, and for a whole variety of reasons. But it's also the words that we use. So in describing, like, how we feel, for example, Michelle just describing her feelings, and like, okay, I have to go to doctors, that kind of thing. Like, I had 2 hip replacements, and in the last 3 weeks, I have had 3 dislocations. My hips have come out of their socket 3 times. It's probably very painful, extremely painful. And I get to go to a doctor. We learned this in gratitude training. It's not I have to go to the doctor. I get to go. I mean, a few years ago, they wouldn't have even had that surgery. A few years ago, I may have had to have suffered for a lot longer. And so I think it's the words that we select to use or not use, or in the case like I was talking about earlier with cancer, not use. So I think it's also the way we frame something, the way we frame something that we are doing. Somebody called me this morning for a letter of, it's too long. It's 3 minutes. I've had enough. But I'll leave it at that. That I think it's the way we utilize the words, or not use them.
Yeah.
And so that's why I select not to use certain words. And I don't know that it's that I'm reinforcing it by not using those words. I think it sort of gets it out of my mind altogether by not reinforcing it with words. And so I think it's the choice of words that we make, and that has to do with consciousness and being conscious of the words that we use. So I mean, we can carry on because it does go deeper. I think it does go deeper.
Yeah. I mean, words we use and don't use, what does it require? It requires a judgment of something. So it's still, the whole thing is just a relinquishment of the whole game. And in the beginning, like using words in certain ways, for sure, supports us, like the have to get to, like that was very profound to have it like that. Right. And words are just symbols. Again, we've assigned meaning to every single word. So moving beyond the meaning of words is what the Course also invites us into. Like I can say I need to, I have to, or I get to. Those two words can mean the exact same thing to me. Just because I've moved beyond the symbols of what they are and what they mean to me. So when somebody else says, I have to, I have no need to even want to correct them into I get to. Because in my mind, they have become the same. So we can move beyond words. So anyways, could be a whole other conversation that we can get into totally. But we are out of time today. I am flying to Taiwan tomorrow. So let's see. The call is going to be Sunday. It'll be at midnight my time. I think I'll still make it happen. All right. So maybe I'll see you guys on Sunday. Much love, everybody. Thank you for being here.
Love you.
Bye.